Another epic story by Ben A. They say some mirrors show more than just your face, but what if one showed the part of you you've spent your whole life hiding? In a quiet village called Onicha, hidden beyond the reach of maps and men, there was a shrine no one dared touch, until she did. Megan adjusted the silk scarf around her neck and stepped carefully over the tangle of dried vines that guarded the shrine's cracked threshold. The heat in Onicha was unbearable, even beneath the tree cover. But it wasn't just the sun prickling her skin, it was the feeling of being watched. The villagers had warned her, of course. They always did when outsiders poked too close to the past. But Megan wasn't just any outsider. She was born here. She'd simply become something else. The shrine was smaller than she imagined. Crumbling clay walls, soot-stained idols, and in the center, balanced delicately on a three-legged stool, sat a mirror unlike any she'd seen. Round. Frame carved in ancient spirals. The glass was murky, almost black in the shadows. And yet, as she moved, it reflected her clearly, too clearly. Her fingers hovered before touching it. A low sound, like air slipping underwater, pulsed once through the room. She froze. Nothing moved. No wind. No insects. Even the birds had gone silent. Then a voice, dry and close, "The mirror must never leave." Megan spun around. A woman stood at the entrance. Bent with age, wrapped in white cloth, her eyes white with cataract but fixed squarely on Megan. "Montgomery watches, girl. You take that," she takes something back. Megan forced a polite smile. "I understand, Mama. Thank you." But she didn't mean it. She had clients in London waiting. Private collectors with deep pockets. Whatever Montgomery was, a myth, a goddess, a threat, it wasn't real enough to stop her. That night, in her hotel room in Enugu, she unwrapped the mirror again. This time under soft electric light, the glass shimmered as if oil danced across its surface. Megan stared into it. Her reflection stared back, her high cheekbones, smart eyes, burgundy lipstick. Everything looked normal, except one thing. She smiled. The reflection didn't. It stared. Unblinking. Megan blinked once, twice, leaned forward. The reflection finally smiled, late, almost sarcastically, and then caught up, like a lagging screen. She scoffed. "Jet lag," she whispered, and shoved the cloth back over it. By the time she arrived at the airport the next day, a dull headache pounded behind her right eye. Her assistant in Lagos texted, "Confirmed. Auction house in London is locked in. Press photos needed by Friday." Megan boarded with the mirror wrapped tightly in her carry-on. As the plane took off, she glanced at the overhead bin and for a second, swore she heard something inside shift. In London, things moved fast. An invite-only showing was arranged. Whispers began circulating in elite circles, a mirror from pre-colonial Nigeria tied to fertility and water rituals, never before seen. What Megan didn't say, not even to her assistant, was that since she landed, she hadn't looked in the mirror again. She couldn't. Every time she passed a reflective surface, she caught the same strange thing, her reflection moving a second too slow. As if something else was rehearsing her actions and didn't quite get the timing right. Still, she kept telling herself the same thing, it's just stress. Sleep deprivation. Paranoia. That's all. But late one night, while closing her bedroom door, she caught the mirror in the corner of her eye. Her reflection didn't move. And it was already smiling. Megan stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows of her London flat, city lights painting soft glows across her face. Her fingers curled around a glass of red wine, untouched. The mirror sat in the corner, draped again, as if asleep. She hadn't looked at it directly since the night she landed. But she felt it. Like a breath held too long in a room. During the day, everything seemed normal. Better than normal. Her inbox was a storm of invitations. "Is it true you have the Onicha mirror?" one collector had written. Another offered to fly in from Dubai. Even the BBC requested an interview. Megan smiled through it all, networking, laughing, perfecting her curated charm. But at night, the cracks showed. She'd come home from meetings and kick off her heels in silence. The apartment echoed. She'd stare at the screen of her phone, sometimes opening a blank email addressed to Amara, her younger sister in Nigeria. Just one sentence sat there: "Did you ever forgive me?" But she never hit send. One evening, she opened her wardrobe and found a silk blouse ripped at the collar. She didn't remember tearing it. She hadn't worn it in weeks. On her bathroom sink, a tube of lipstick lay open, crimson red. She hadn't used that shade since 2018. Her lips still tasted of it. Megan blinked. She looked in the mirror above the sink. She was frowning. But her reflection was not. The face in the glass held a soft, twisted smile, small, smug, and unblinking. Megan backed away slowly, nearly tripping over the bath mat. She slammed the medicine cabinet shut, breath hitching. "I'm losing it," she muttered. "I just need sleep." That night, her phone buzzed. Voicemail received, 2:03 a.m. She didn't remember calling anyone. She pressed play. Static at first. Then her own voice, barely a whisper: "Don't trust her. She's me but she isn't, she isn't." She dropped the phone. 2 days later, Obiora called. She hadn't spoken to him in 3 years. He used to work with her on a cultural exhibit in Lagos, brilliant, annoying, charming when he wanted to be. Now he was a folklore journalist with a podcast called Things We Don't Say. "I saw you in The Guardian," he said. "That mirror, you brought it out of Nigeria?" She hesitated. "It's complicated. That's a shrine piece, Megan. Not a museum one. You know that, right?" She sighed. "You don't believe in that stuff." "I don't," he said. "But you do. Or you used to." They met for lunch at a gallery cafe, public, bright, safe. Obiora looked older, beard thicker, smile softer. He watched her carefully. "You look tired," he said gently. "Everything okay?" Megan smiled. "Fine. Just busy." But inside, she wanted to scream, "Please tell me I'm not crazy. Tell me this isn't real." That night, at a private showing in Mayfair, Megan stepped toward a glass door, champagne in one hand, rehearsing her pitch in her head. She paused. Her reflection stared back. It was her. But not. The other Megan leaned in and kissed a man she didn't recognize. She gasped and spun around. The man was real. And he was already watching her. Smiling. Megan sat across from a London buyer at a sunlit cafe near Hyde Park. Her espresso had gone cold. The man, older and pinstriped, was beaming. "This mirror," he said, "is unlike anything I've handled in years. Do you know how rare pieces with actual tribal origin are, especially untouched by colonial filters?" She smiled faintly, nodding, but her heart wasn't there. Her eyes flicked to the glass windows. Her reflection sat still. Too still. She blinked first. It blinked second. Out of sync, again. When the meeting ended, she walked home. The city moved around her like it didn't notice she was unraveling. At a red light, her phone buzzed. Amara. She stared at the screen. It rang. And rang. She didn't answer. Instead, she went home, tossed her bag aside, and ordered food she didn't feel like eating. She turned on the TV and let some old movie play in the background. But when she looked at the black screen of her phone, just for a second, she saw her reflection. And it was crying. Megan wasn't. Later that night, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from her assistant. "Was that a joke? The email you sent at 3 a.m.? Kinda dark," Megan frowned. She hadn't touched her laptop since the afternoon. She opened her sent folder. There it was, an attached video. She clicked play. It was her. In her bedroom. Facing the mirror. Her voice came through, hollow, as if recorded from underwater. She begged me to speak for her. I told them I didn't know her. I said she lied. And they believed me. Megan slammed the laptop shut, breath caught in her chest. She sat still for several minutes, unsure whether to scream or cry. Instead, she walked into the hall, yanked the sheet off the mirror, dragged it down the stairs, and placed it outside, next to the bins. She returned upstairs, trembling. Her apartment was quiet, too quiet. Then she noticed it. A faint trail of wetness across the wooden floor. Like someone had walked inside with soaked feet. She followed it slowly to her bedroom. The mirror was back. Standing tall. Dry on the outside. But the scent of damp leaves, old clay, and river water filled the air. Her phone rang. Obiora. I've been digging, he said. The name Montgomery isn't just myth. She was believed to guard sacred reflections. They say she brings consequences, especially for those who harm their own blood. Megan sat down slowly on the edge of the bed. Her throat felt dry. I didn't hurt her, she whispered. You didn't protect her either, Obiora replied gently. And there it was. The truth. Back then, when Amara came to her, young, afraid, expecting, Megan had walked away. She told the family Amara was lying. That it wasn't her responsibility. That she didn't want scandal or drama blocking her scholarship. She left Amara alone. With everything. That night, Megan woke to dripping sounds. She followed them into the bathroom. The bathtub was filling, on its own. No taps. No water line. She leaned in slowly. And saw a face begin to rise beneath the surface. A woman. Ancient. Her eyes deep as rivers. A voice echoed, not in the room, but inside Megan's chest. Confession is not enough. The debt remains. Megan backed away, frozen. Her reflection didn't move. And then it smiled. In the time before glass, when river gods still walked among trees, a woman once borrowed a calabash she was told never to open. She carried it to the market, placed it beside her yams, and smiled. But when buyers looked inside, they saw not produce, but her lies, blooming like mold. She died rich. But no one remembers her face, only the smell. Megan woke in silk she didn't buy. A green dress, too formal for sleep. The kind she might wear to a gallery opening, tailored, perfect. Her face was made up. Hair smooth. A faint citrus perfume she didn't recognize clung to her wrists. She didn't remember dressing. Or moving. The calendar on her tablet blinked with new events, Dubai buyer breakfast, confirmed. Interview with Vogue Africa, confirmed. But she had scheduled none of them. Her inbox had replies. Dozens. All in her tone. All correct. All, not hers. When she passed a hallway mirror, the reflection looked at her, but only after she stopped. She raised a hand. The reflection did too, half a second late. When she mouthed stop, it mouthed no. She placed both hands on the glass. It smiled and waved goodbye. Obiora called with panic in his voice. I found an old man near Onicha, he said. Shrine elder. He said a Montgomery's mirror doesn't kill the thief, it replaces them. It mimics, until it becomes. Megan gripped the phone tighter. It already has, she whispered. Obiora pleaded, you have to destroy it. I can't, she said. I tried. It always comes back. That afternoon, Megan stood on the sidewalk across from the private auction house in Mayfair. She wasn't allowed inside. They told her the guest list was full, but she had been invited. Hadn't she? From the glass window of a perfume shop across the street, she watched. Inside the mirrored foyer, a woman in a green dress shook hands with art collectors. Her face was composed. Her smile familiar. It was her. But it wasn't. The mirror was wheeled out on a velvet platform. The crowd applauded. The reflection waved with grace. The real Megan stood shaking in the reflection of a car window, watching her own identity being sold. That night, she returned to her apartment. She had no reflection anymore. In the mirror. In the glass of the microwave. Even in the puddle outside her door. She was invisible. And yet, the her in the world was thriving. On TV. In press photos. She was now a brand. A success. Only Megan herself was missing. Obiora knocked on her door at midnight. She didn't answer. The woman who looked like Megan did. She greeted him in that same green dress, warm and confident. But his eyes darkened. Because something was off, too perfect. Too rehearsed. The eyes didn't match the tone. He didn't step in. Instead, he turned toward the hallway mirror. There, inside, Megan's real face stared back, pressed against the other side of the glass. She was screaming silently. Fists pounding. Obiora froze. He placed one hand on the mirror. Her lips mouthed, "Please." Megan sat on a bench that didn't exist. The world around her shimmered like heat rising off tar, shadows of her old apartment, her grandmother's compound, her first gallery in Lagos. But everything was warped, reversed, reflected. She reached out for a book that appeared on a floating table. Her hand passed through it. Time had no meaning here. Hunger, sleep, touch, all gone. Only memory remained. And the mirror. She could see the world through it, through dozens of surfaces. The Megan who walked, spoke, and smiled wasn't her. But it wore her. It laughed at shows. Hosted interviews. Kissed cheeks at auctions. It was good at being her. Sometimes, when Obiora stood in front of a mirror and whispered her name, she could almost feel warmth again. But he couldn't hear her. Not truly. He tried. But the mirror never lets go. Obiora did everything he could. He returned to the shrine ruins. Consulted spiritual elders. Burned incense. Spoke her name to glass and water. But nothing reached her. Nothing broke the bond. In public, the Megan clone continued her rise. He watched her on TV once, smiling beside an oil tycoon from Dubai. The mirror now hung on the tycoon's gallery wall, a center showcase. Obiora turned off the screen and wept. Not because she was gone. But because no one else even noticed. The tycoon's mansion was filled with gold-trimmed walls and lights that made no shadows. One night, his daughter, a quiet girl of 10, stood in front of the mirror. She stared at it curiously, brushing her teeth. The lights flickered. And in the glass, her reflection blinked, just once, out of rhythm. She tilted her head. So did it. But the smile it gave back wasn't hers. Far away, beneath an open sky in a village forgotten by most maps, a fire crackled quietly before dawn. An old woman sat surrounded by sleepy-eyed children, their heads resting on their knees, their hearts racing from the tale she had just finished telling. She smiled, not sweetly, but deeply, with the weight of someone who knows. And that, my children, is why we never mock the old gods, she said. And never carry what doesn't belong to you into places it was never meant to go. One child raised her hand. Grandma, was the woman real? The old woman's eyes twinkled in the firelight. She was real enough, she said. And some say, she still is. That night, while the others slept in the mat room, one curious girl got up quietly and tiptoed toward the wooden stool where her grandmother kept her prayer cloth and rosary. There was something else underneath. She knelt. Lifted the edge of the cloth. A round, dusty mirror stared back at her. Small. Spiraled frame. Dark glass. She reached out and touched it. Nothing. She leaned closer. Her reflection blinked. So did she. But not at the same time. Dear viewers, what lessons did you take out from this epic story? Thanks for watching. Please like, share, subscribe and turn on the notification bells to stay updated.